This is Alan with Wave Wi-Fi, and today I'm going to do a demonstration of our push notification when you need updates done to your Wi-Fi receiver or your Wave Wi-Fi router products. When you are connected to the internet, which I am right now, and I'm on an earlier firmware version than what is currently released, the router or the Wi-Fi receiver will check and see if there's a firmware update available, and it will change the banner, which is normally product advertisements, to new firmware update available. Click here to download. So it lets you know about it and makes it kind of convenient to how to do it. This is an MNC 1250 router. Our MBR 550, 500, or 1200 routers would be the same. So here is also our Rogue Pro dual band Wi-Fi receiver, and you see the same thing. It wants a firmware update, new firmware update available. Click here to download. Okay. So whenever there's a firmware update, there's improvements and enhancements, sometimes new features that you would probably want to get, but it's kind of up to you. Call us if you have any questions about what's changed or different or whatever, to decide if you want to do it, but most people would want to do it. If I click here to download, you'll see it opens a new tab, gives me some instructions, and it has a click here. Let me see what this does. Okay, this is actually downloading it to my computer. Just wanted to let you see that. How that page that it opens does it. I prefer myself to go to the settings page, and miscellaneous. This is on the router product, and on firmware update I have two icons that I can choose between. Okay, one of them, if I had downloaded the firmware and it's already on my computer, I can browse for it. And the other is to check for firmware updates, and this actually downloads it directly to the device. I like that better. It's convenient when you have a phone or iPad or something like that where you may not know where the file lands if you download the firmware. So I click on update available. Please click on the floppy disk icon. So now I'm back and I have a new floppy disk icon, and I can click on that and update that firmware. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to go back over to this one and show you that it's a similar type of thing where it has instructions for firmware update after you've clicked on the banner notification for that. And if you click here, again, it's going to attempt to download it to your computer. And you can do it that way, or similar to the other router, I can click on the settings page and look for firmware upgrade and click on check for firmware updates. It's going to say one is available. It's going to give me a floppy disk icon. I'm going to do this one first because this is the one connected to the internet. Actually, it's connected to the router, so I don't want to do the router and then not be able to get to the Wi-Fi receiver. So I'm doing the Wi-Fi receiver first. So now I'm doing the downloading firmware. You see, it kind of makes it easy for you. And so that's working on that. I don't want to do this one yet because I want to wait for this one to kind of complete. Because I'm going to that Wi-Fi receiver, the Rogue Pro dual band, through the router. If I do something like updating firmware that causes the router to reboot, I'll lose access to this. So I don't want to have two going at the same time. So if you're doing a firmware update wirelessly, you might want to check that you got kicked off of the wireless network that's getting you to the device. If your Rogue is connected to a different router other than Wave Wi-Fi, you got kicked off, you're not getting to the Rogue anymore. You might want to check your device, your iPad, your phone, whatever, to make sure that it is connected to the Wi-Fi signal within the boat that has the product plugged into it. Okay. Now I can kind of check on, without doing this here, I can look and see if I get the indication under Wave Wi-Fi for the Wi-Fi receiver that it's come back up. I've got the plug so far indicating that it detects that Ethernet is plugged in. It went away and then come back after it reboots with the firmware update. So we're kind of waiting for that to come back. But anyway, it's nice functionality that we do push a notification on our products that there's a firmware update available to fix problems, added features and enhancements that make the product work better for you. So waiting on flashing. Might be back. I'm just kind of reloading that page to see what's really there. Yeah, I'm on D107D firmware now. This should be showing up over here. Yeah, we've got manage. So if I close out of that tab and go back here, manage should get me back to the Wi-Fi receiver. Yes, it does. In case anybody doesn't know, when you click on that manage on the router, it kind of puts it in a frame, the Wi-Fi receiver. And you have these two little buttons up here. One of them would close that back out and leave you back on the router. The other one opens it in a new tab. You want to probably select a new tab, that way you can kind of go back and forth between your connected products. But now we've got that banner notification. We went and done the firmware update, and we're on it on the Wi-Fi receiver, Red Pro Dual Band. So now you can go do it on this one. I'm going to try this one this way. So I'm going to say, let me go ahead and go to settings. Miscellaneous, firmware update, check for updates. It's available. Now I should have a floppy disk. I am on 102A right now, and I'm going to get an update. And you got it, and we're flashing. When you click on that circle check mark, by the way, it downloads it actually to the device itself, not to your computer. I probably mentioned that before, but it's convenient for handheld devices like phones and iPads, where you may not know where that file lands, to be able to push it to the device to update the actual firmware. So it's downloaded, and actually on the router, it's downloaded to the router itself. On the Rogue, same thing, just download it to the Rogue Pro DB or Wi-Fi receiver itself. And when you click on the floppy disk, it's flashing that firmware to the system. Since this is the router, I might check my Ethernet port to see if I'm on 101 IP address, so I don't know if that's ready or not yet. It takes a couple minutes for it to flash the firmware, so have patience with that. I think it just came up just now. Or maybe not. Nope. By the way, that's a good example. If you get a 169.254 IP address in your Ethernet that's connected to the router, for example, you're not getting to it. You didn't get an IP from the router. Sometimes you have to disable. You could also just unplug your Ethernet cable going to your laptop or whatever and plug it back in, or disconnect your Wi-Fi and reconnect. When it's all done, it should get it should not get 169.254 because that means it didn't get anything. I think we got it now. Yeah, so we got a 101 IP. So this should work. Yep, ping works. Should be on here. So now I'm on 102B. So I'm updated. I no longer have a banner. I am still connected to the internet, and everything should work. So that's our push notifications on the banner, notifications of firmware updates for router products and Wi-Fi receivers. Thank you for watching.